Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to 2 Minute Warning on the Jez Show Podcast Network. We are the NFL and now XFL again related podcast. They give you all the latest news 2 minutes at a time. I'm here as usual with my co-host Matt, and today also joined by special guest co-star Duff Valley. How are you both doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Wonderful. So this is the first time we've done this with 3 people. So we're going to have to really play it by ear as to how the 2 minutes kind of share its way out. But hey, we've each got a timeout. So that's 3 timeouts available across the whole episode rather than 2. So I'm sure we can work it out somehow. Should we get cracking with our first bit of news?
Absolutely, I think we should.
Lovely. So, some breaking news from this afternoon, just making it into our show barely, is that an investor group headed by former WWE superstar and Hollywood actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson have bought the XFL, which declared bankruptcy in April. The purchase is said to be worth $15 million, split between all of the investors. How do we feel about this news? Duff, you start us off. 2 minutes on the clock.
Well, it's real life ballers, isn't it? It's perfect. It couldn't be any more like the show, and it'll be very interesting to see, especially with the season how it is, how the college players will react to that if it starts next year, and kind of a path of whether to try and go NFL or feel it would be better to go XFL.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there were a lot of guys in what was this year's XFL season that were really making a name for themselves, and you would have expected them to be signed by the NFL if they'd have got the chance to play out the whole season and really prove themselves. So you wonder if some of the college guys that might fall under the radar might go, I'll go to the XFL and have a year there proving myself and hopefully get signed that way. It's a way of getting there and being paid while playing football rather than having to hang around in college for another year not getting paid. Matt, what do you think?
Oh, well, you know me, I'm a massive fan of XFL anyway, and I can't wait. I think Dwayne and the investor group have been smart, but $15 million is a bargain price really for a company that have been touted as a $50 million company out there in the States. I just hope there's investment, and hopefully over the next couple of years, as long as this investor group looks after the XFL, I really hope there might be a league expansion as well, you know, up to maybe go from the 8 seats to 12 and build it from there.
Yeah, it remains to be seen whether they actually keep the exact same format that happened this year, but you would assume that all of the team kind of names and copyrights and everything comes with it. We'll have to see.
And it means a Washington team has a name.
It does, and 2 supporters on this podcast, so there you go. Shields up.
Shields up.
That's our time for that topic. Let's crack straight on. Over to you, Matt.
Okay, so a lot more players opting out. So the news is with the camps coming up and that they're actually open. Is it going to be a case of hopefully a regular season in September? There's a lot of players that have decided to opt out of the season under the league's COVID-19 agreement. Notable names are opt out of Bears defensive. Sorry about that. Bears defensive tackle Eddie Goldman, Bills defensive lineman Star can't pronounce it. Lutalele. Chiefs running back Lutalele. Yeah. You've got the Chiefs running back Damien Williams, Eagles receiver Marquise Godwin, You've got the Giants tackle Nate Solder, Jets linebacker CJ Mosley, and something that stuck for me is the 7 prominent New England Patriots players, with the deadline to opt out expected to be moved up either to tomorrow, so Tuesday here in the UK, or Wednesday. How many more will opt out? What do you think?
I mean, there are good reasons for some of these guys opting out, but I just don't agree with the ability for some players to opt out of the season and others not to. And when you look down the list of players that have opted out, I just feel like there's a massive amount of privilege involved, and only the players that have had like concurrent seasons where they've been paid lots of money have seemed to opt out. Whereas, rookies or people who aren't quite able to afford it, they are forced to play, basically. So I don't agree. I think people should be sticking with their team, bubbling away from their families. And yeah. What do you think, guys?
I think it's going to be interesting, especially with the amount of people that are already on the COVID list, and it's rising. I think hopefully we still get a season, which is the main thing. But yeah, it's getting worse and worse, especially with, another 5 now from the Jags.
Yeah.
It's definitely building.
Matt?
Yeah, well, I see this as, and to quote a Queen classic, is I want to break free year rather than a breakout year for some bigger name players and some rookie coming into their first year pro. I just think it's too many names have dropped out. A lot of prominent names have dropped out. In my opinion, for a good reason. Obviously, they don't want to make themselves sick, but I agree with what you said about bubbling in teams. But we just know that, sorry, America, you suck at this whole COVID-19 thing, so it's inevitable.
And that's your time. That was perfectly timed, that, out the whistle. As both of your cameras decide to play silly buggers for some reason. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll persevere anyway. Comments come in that will hopefully reassure you guys. Timbo Slice on YouTube says, COVID-19 will not kill us. Bye.
Short and sweet.
I'm reassured. I'm glad that he attached the evidence to that to assure us, and we can just rest assured that we're not going to die. Good, thanks. On to the next topic then. Amid the NFL uncertainty, many assume that college football just wouldn't happen in 2020. That was proven wrong this week, though, with the ACC, SEC, and Pac-12 announcing modified seasons for 2020. The ACC will play a 10+1 schedule, 10 conference games and 1 non-conference, with Notre Dame joining the conference for 2020. The SEC will play a 10-game conference-only slate, and likewise the Pac-12 approved a 10-game conference-only fall schedule. The quality and frequency of college games will obviously have a knock-on effect for the 2020 NFL draft. What do you think that we can expect from college football this year? Matt starts off, 2 minutes. Here we go.
Okay, so I like college football anyway, and I'm happy that we'll get to see some football through the college system over in America. I just want to see some exciting talent coming out of college. I want to see some breakout players coming through, even though it's a shortened season, and hopefully some of the names that are touted into draft next year already get what they want, get the teams, get big name teams that they want to go to. Although, as we've mentioned today at the top of the program, could they look at the XFL contracts as well?
Duff?
Yeah, I think I've read and heard a few NFL pundits say that there's probably going to be a few players who think they've already made their mark over the last season, that maybe they've done enough that scouts have already seen, so they may opt out. They may play one or two depending on their schedule. If they've got a couple of possible easy ones to start with to maybe show off, that they might play one or two and then opt out. But it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I think it's probably going to give us hungrier players. For if some of these big ones do opt out, it's going to give a chance to some really hungry players, whether it is NFL or XFL. They've kind of, in a way, almost got a chance to step up, which I think will be good.
There are two things there, really. Is it may give opportunities to guys that wouldn't ordinarily be seen by NFL scouts. But the only people it really affects are your kind of younger, like juniors and sophomores, who might have wanted to declare early for the draft. They're probably not going to be able to do that now because the video won't be there for them. That's 2 minutes on that. Couple of comments on Twitch. Carmen Rider Wizard 0014 says, always a good day when you learn you're not going to die, really? Yeah. And Ashley Lewis on YouTube, in reality, the Hawkeyes are just too scared to play us Cyclones. Definitely nothing else behind it. Trust me.
Oh, yeah. Ash is a big college fan, so he knows his college football.
And there have been a lot of long-standing rivalries that are not going to happen this year as a result of the restructuring and conference-only stuff. So, yes, let's stop there and move on to the next topic. Give us the rundown, Matt.
So it's everyone's favourite player, Antonio Brown. So despite not being signed to any NFL team, Antonio Brown has been suspended for 8 games for multiple violations of the league's personal conduct policy. Last week, AB claimed he was retired. Lamar Jackson went on a record saying that he hopes the Baltimore Ravens sign him. What do we think about the continuing antics of Mr. Antonio Brown, guys?
So I'll start this one off because I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I don't think that Antonio Brown has done anything at all to earn any kind of redemption or given any team a reason to sign him. Like, the baggage that existed this time last year and throughout is still there. There is no reason for anybody to sign this toxic character. And I hope that nobody does. But if the Ravens do, at least it'll weaken them a bit and give the other teams in that division a chance to shine. Duff, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I just assumed he'd retired and that was it. And now suddenly his name's getting thrown around again. I don't know. I would say it was a publicity stunt, but what's he publicising?
Yeah,
I mean, no one particularly wants him. When he does get signed, he is just an absolute nightmare. I don't get it. I really don't.
Matt, what do you think?
No. Well, you know, and our listeners and viewers know. I'm pretty sure I told this guy to stay away from the NFL anyway. I told him to do something productive like fishing. Anyway, so if he goes to anywhere like the Ravens, then they deserve him. Or, as I'm a bit sour grapes about Brady and Gronk, he can go to the Bucks and ruin that whole thing instead.
Always the XFL or the CFL. I'm surely one of them will have him.
Yeah. There was talk at one point of him going and finishing out his college eligibility and doing his senior year again. And so, whatever nonsense he wants to get up to. If he wants to make himself the center of attention, there is certainly a way for him to do it. But largely, I just want this guy not on my radar in any way, shape,
Another crazy story.
Same. Very same.
Next topic then. And this is one that's kind of close to my leg. 2 years after suffering one of the most catastrophic leg injuries in NFL history, Washington quarterback Alex Smith has been cleared to return to play and intends on doing so this season. According to NFL insider Tom Pelissaro, Smith will begin training camp on the active player list, which means he'll get a shot to be on the depth chart for snaps alongside Dwayne Haskins and their other off-season acquisition, Kyle Allen. Simple question, gents, and Duffy starts off. Will Smith see any playing time in 2020? Here we go.
I can't see it. I mean, it's obviously taken a lot for him to be healthy, but something like that is not an easy injury to come back from. We've seen it time and time again where it just something that big just doesn't happen. There's only so much your body can take. One dodgy tackle, and he could be out again, and I think that would be it for him. So
yeah,
does he use this as another year to get some real practice? Or
the thing about this is, and I can relate a lot to what has happened with Alex Smith, because the leg injury or the breaks that he did, I did identical a few months prior to him. And you can recover from that, and your leg can be perfectly fine, and in most cases stronger with the metal rod in there. But it's the added complication of the fact that his bone broke the skin, and he had all of that infection problem and nearly had to have it amputated and all other kinds of nonsense. That's the bit that gives me pause whether he can actually take the field again. But I would personally really like him to be traded to the Bears, because when you think about what he's done in the past and his time in Kansas City, he was instrumental in bringing Mahomes up to standard, and we know what he's like now. He's worked under Matt Nagy and that kind of system, so I think he could do wonders for a guy like Mitch Trubisky, just being a backup quarterback on the same team as him. So yeah, trade him to the Bears. Yeah. You got 20 seconds, Matt.
Okay, well, I love Cena come back, and it's just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, hell, even Goldberg. But finally, Alex Smith has come back to the NFL. So I'm going to ask you, Jeremy, and you, Duff, do you smell what he's cooking?
You did it out of the whistle again. I don't know how you're doing it, but your timing's impeccable. I'm just going to reset your camera, Matt, before we continue, because it's doing silly buggers, and when I reset Duff's, his seemed to work since then. So let's just do that quickly, and hopefully that will stick. Onwards then, now that you are back, Matt, you can give us the rundown on our next topic.
Okay, so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have added veteran running back LaShawn McCoy to their roster, agreeing to a one-year deal. According to McCoy's agents, he's very excited to play with established veterans like Brady and Gronk in trying to win another championship. What do you think of this signing, guys?
And 2 minutes, here we go. It's like playing Madden, isn't it? You're doing your fantasy draft at the beginning of your franchise season. It's like, right, who can I pick up to make this team work? So obviously you go for Brady. You go, yeah, Gronk, let's get Gronk as well. And now you're like, we're getting to the later stages of the draft, and we want to pick up our other kind of supporting players. Oh yeah, LaShawn McCoy, he'll fit in well with this group. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're just picking up people to add to this apparent dream team that they're going to have in Tampa Bay. As long as they use Shady as Shady, passes out of the backfield, lots of open space stuff, and not expect him to go between the tackles, I think he can do really well in Tampa. Matt?
Okay, so Brady, Shady, it's all very strange for anybody. Like you said, it's a bit like fantasy draft. But I think it's going to turn into a Florida sob story, because I think they can add who they want and all the egos. But I think they'll stumble upon hard times in the NFC, let alone cross conference games. I just think it's adding more fuel to that fire that's going to fizzle out before the end of the season, to be honest.
30 seconds, Duff.
I think it would be nice to actually see him on the field to win a Super Bowl. I think that would be good. And what is 1,000 yards off a career 12,000? That would be a nice milestone to hit. But yeah, like you said, egos. You can have all the best players in the world, but they can't necessarily play well together. It'll definitely be interesting to see.
I'm waiting for someone to drop the stupid line like the Eagles did a few years ago and actually call them a dream team and totally jinx the whole thing, because it's gonna happen. Someone is gonna be that stupid, but not us. And speaking of the Eagles, we move now into our State of the Franchise segment. This week we are looking at the NFC East, and we'll kick off our discussion today with the Philadelphia Eagles, who hopefully won't say any stupid dream team type comments, but we shall see. Matthew, start us off. 2 minutes on the clock.
Okay, so Eagles, fly away, go away, good riddance. I think, they're a one-hit wonder, especially recently. I don't think they have enough, in my opinion, to make any progress. I've said a prediction like we've done every week. I've gone for 6-10 on their season, and as I've coined that phrase a couple of times, or maybe just once, to the pit of misery. I don't think Wentz will last the season. I just think he's too injury prone, to be honest.
Duff?
Yeah, same. I think they've got an interesting schedule this year. I think they need to win the first three going into the next three with 49ers, Steelers and Ravens. I think that'll be the key to their season. And I think 7-9 at best. I
think most of this division, when we look at it closely, have got a pretty tough schedule, playing against the AFC North, and all had pretty fairly kind of okay records last year, enough to give them some difficult opponents. So the Eagles are definitely going to suffer from that, I think. Like you both said, Wentz not being able to stay healthy may come back and bite them. At least this year they've got rookie Jalen Hurts to fall back on. But unfortunately, they haven't really got much of a supporting cast around whoever the quarterback may be. Running back's been a bit shaky. People were raving about Miles Sanders' 750 rushes, rushing yards, and 500 reception yards season, but it doesn't really cut it not in the NFC East. That's going to be more and more competitive as time goes on. 8-8 is the best I see for this team, really. None of us really feeling the Eagles.
Nope.
Let's move on to the next team.
Okay, so next team. How about them Cowboys? So you tell us, Jez. How about them?
It's their division to lose, really. Like, when you just look at this on paper, the Cowboys win, but we all know the game's not played on paper, and we all know that the Cowboys routinely cock up any expectations held for them. So they've got a new head coach in Mike McCarthy. He should be able to bring them round. He's got a good track record, and I think it's going to happen. It's got to happen at some point for this Cowboys team that have been on the skirting the playoffs for years. So I see 12-4 for them. Duff?
Like you said, on paper, great team, great O-line, I think. Terrible D-line. I think last year, pretty awful. Maybe mixing it up with a few young players this year. They got Clinton Dix from the Bears. That may help them. The new coaches might have an effect. But like every other team with a new coach, they haven't had much time pre-season to do anything with them. I see it exactly the same. I see it 8-8 this year. I don't see it being overly great.
Wow. Matt?
My thoughts are, when do they ever do anything productive? I it's not that I hate them. I just it's the false America's team. But yeah, they start great, stagger, falter, and just fall. I think 2020 will be no different. I think the only chance they have of winning a Super Bowl is on Madden anyway. But like you said, Jeremy, I think it's their division to lose. It's no real competition. I think they're going to end up 11-5.
Indeed, and we've seemed to have lost Duff, so I don't know if we can get him back in. It might have been because Captain Brilliant has joined us, and
Spoil it.
in part of his his retort to what Duff said, "You're a Clinton Dick," which is funny. To be fair, that's a good play on words. We'll give him a minute, see if he can jump back in. I don't know what happened to him. I assume internet troubles, as is often the case. I was just about to jinx it and say, "Oh, your camera, both of your cameras haven't crapped out."
I thought the way he paused, I thought he'd just fallen asleep on me. To be honest, he just went like that.
All that talk of the Cowboys.
I know, how boring. Yeah.
No, I think we have lost him, so we'll persevere.
Okay.
Maybe we can get him back at the end and get his thoughts if that is a possible thing. But onwards to the Washington football team. Let's do 2 minutes, and you can start us off, Matt.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a tough year for them. Like you said, they're nameless team, Washington football team. If, as we've mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Alex Smith does start and is healthy, they'll pick up a few wins. I think he's a good enough quarterback to bring out the best in what he's got around him. Like I said, tough season. 6-10 with the new head coach.
I mean, they have to improve on last year, surely, because you can't really get any lower than that. So they will improve under Ron Rivera. There have been a lot of distractions this season that they've had to overcome. Notably, the fact that they've had to change their name. But the main problem is they don't really know who their starting quarterback is going to be. So that's their first obstacle. They need to work out who's going to be under center for them. And depending on who it is, I would expect a breakout year for now second-year wide receiver Terry McLaurin, with almost literally nobody throwing to him last year. He managed to have a fairly decent season. I think he ended up somewhere in the 800 yards mark. And scored a bunch of touchdowns, which my fantasy team greatly appreciated. So with that in mind, and looking at their tough schedule, improvement, but not a huge one. I think we're looking at a 5-11 season for the Washington football team, established 1932.
Yeah.
We've got time to spare. Time we had reserved for Duff, but he's gone.
Yes, yeah.
We'll shed a single tear. As we move on to Duff's team.
Yeah, so, like we said, finally we turn our attention to Duff Valley's New York Giants. And it was in our discussion that we'd have him start first. So I would say toss a coin, but I've not got one.
I'll kick us off. Let's do it.
Okay, that's fine. That's
fine. And it's not going to be as fun slating the Giants without him here to cry about it. But another new head coach in this team. I don't know. I don't really like him very much. I don't like Joe Judge. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that he's a former Patriot, but there's something about him that just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what it is. But he does seem like a no-nonsense kind of guy, and that's exactly what all of the teams in New York need, not just the Giants. They need a no-nonsense coach to deal with the media in New York and not put up with any of the kind of shenanigans that playing in New York brings out of the players. Daniel Jones will continue to improve, I think. He had a great rookie year. He hasn't got like Eli Manning in his shadow now, kind of biting at his ankles. Hopefully Saquon Barkley will last the season. That hurt them when he dropped out last year. So they'll do okay. But I still think they come out with a losing record, 6-10.
Yeah. Well, I'm no Giants fan for obvious reasons, being a Patriots fan. But I think they'll pick up wins in the division. I think they'd be all right. They're not playoff caliber anymore. They do need, like you mentioned, Saquon Barkley to stay healthy. I just think the bigger games, they just don't turn up for them, and I think they'll limp out. Out of the season with an 8-8 record, so a 0.500 for me.
I mean, 8-8 would be good for them. I think if they could do that, I think they would be happy with that.
Yeah,
coming out of a rebuilding kind of system.
And that's me being generous as a Patriots fan.
I was going to say that is particularly generous, I think.
Steve, but
I didn't actually add our cameras to our last slide, so I'll just leave it on this one as we close out the podcast. Technical difficulties abound in this episode of 2 Minute Warning. So, first of all, I'd like to thank the now absent Duff Valley for joining us. Until he disappeared, I was really enjoying what he had to say about the various different things. Shame we couldn't hear his thoughts on his own team as we rolled in, but we'll get him back at another date to talk about some Giants related stuff and just generally come along.
Yeah, like you said, it's good to have our first special guest on the reincarnated version of this podcast with me and you. We're up to, like, today, episode 14. Yeah, it's nice to have thoughts of somebody else and not just our sometimes, mostly me, aimless ramblings.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you there.
I've been at work, that's why I'm rambling.
It is nice to get a different perspective other than, Patriots love and Patriots hate. So
yeah.
But if you would like to join us on this podcast, there is actually a link floating. Where is it? Down here in the chat right now. If you head to patreon.com/the Jez Show, one of the perks of becoming a patron is that you can guest star on any of the podcasts on this network. So that's one way to get your voice heard. If we slate your team too much and you don't like what we have to say, you can come and argue with us on air. Other than that, there's plenty of other content for you here on the Jez Show. It's a big week of streams this week. I'm doing something every single day this week. I'm a very busy boy. Yeah. I'm going to sleep at some point, I'm sure. What's going on with you? Where can people catch up with you on social media?
Okay, as always, on Twitter at MattWard1985UK, just Matt Ward on Facebook, and at 2MW_IG on Instagram.
Just had a Facebook message from Duff. The whole building's, I assume he's in flats. In fact, I know he's in flats. The whole building's internet went down. So
you did it. You did it
apparently.
Because you did it. Who hates the Giants that much?
He said he's back in, but he's not popped up in my control room. But so we'll say goodbye on his behalf. Yeah. I'll kick off the the music as we get going into our last slide. Oh wait, here he is.
Oh.
Here he is.
Finally, hey,
I tell
the
you
whole
what.
building went out.
Oh dear. So
Lovely.
we've actually gone through all of our topics, but being as the whole purpose of bringing you on initially was to talk about your team, the New York Giants. I do feel like we need to give you some time. So I tell you what. Where did you drop out? I can't remember. I think
Redskins.
halfway through the Cowboys, was it?
Can't call them the Redskins.
The non Washington team.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll put two minutes on the clock, and you can tell us your thoughts on the Washington team and your beloved New York Giants, and we'll generally hurl abuse at you as you do so. How's that sound?
Sounds like a normal day.
2 minutes on the clock. Here you go.
Okay, so Washington, the nameless team, with coming in with the XFL possibly coming back. I think was it Washington last year had more fans for the XFL team than they did for the actual NFL team.
Did.
So
yeah,
shows you how great their season was. Nice and quick. I think they're going to do terrible, and I think they're going to be 3-13 again.
Ouch.
Yep.
Ooh.
Now
Washington hate.
Yep. For the G-men, I think Judge has got a tough start. Like every coach this season, few padless sessions and a few fully padded sessions. I think it's going to be really hard. Hopefully, he can work on some of the terrible points from last year, mainly probably the D-line. The O-line on paper should, with the names we have, be absolutely amazing. Daniel Jones in his second season did okay for his first season, but I think this second season he could do really well. He's got Saquon, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram behind him. I think that they could do really well. Jason Garrett comes in. We've got a lot of young blood as well. I think can really boost that O-line. It's just all on the D-line. I think with a lot of teams in this league as well, in the NFC East, I think a lot of it comes down to D-line, and I think a lot of them have terrible D-line. And like I said, we've got a few people in. We've got Blake Martinez in for Ogletree, I think, which is definitely a step up. Got some youngins from the draft, McKinney and Bradbury. I think they will do really well. I think, like we were chatting about earlier, I think for D-line, for named players, we've only got one player, Leonard Williams, who has been in the Pro Bowl, and that was 4 years ago, who we signed for an extra year, I think. So we're building, finally. We were supposed to be building.
Your time has expired, so give us a number. What record do you think they
I'm
have?
still only going for 7 and 9.
Yeah,
I was more
of
generous.
all of us. Yeah, of all of us, Matt was the most generous. He gave them an 8 and 8.
See, I was tempted, but I just don't think I can. I still think we need to get rid of Dave Gettleman. I think that's our biggest problem.
Yeah, we were all there or thereabouts in agreement with the Giants, like 6, 7, 8. So
I think it's going to be a close league. I think everyone's kind of around. Well, bar Washington. But
there are a lot of similarities across this division. Lots of new head coaches, lots of new quarterbacks. So, yeah, as I said, the Easts are the most interesting, I think, in this, both NFC and AFC. Be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Well, we already learned where people can stalk Matt on the internet if they so wish. So here's your chance to plug yourself.
Lovely.
Let people know what you're doing. Where can people find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Duff Valley, as well as Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, either that or I think my Instagram actually might be at Dimebag Duff. But just type in Duff Valley and it'll all appear.
It'll find you.
Yeah, they all find me in the end.
Well, I'm glad you managed to make it back in the end.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us and
Thank you very
kind
much.
of breaking up the kind of Patriots hate, Patriots love, Bears crying, and
Beat him
usual kind of
twice.
stuff.
Beat him twice.
Yes, when Matt was doing his talk about the Giants, I simulated the helmet catch for him just to
Nice.
throw a bit of salt in the wound for you. So,
Eli had to
It's a lot.
have one good game both of those seasons. It just happened to be in the Super Bowl.
Long time ago.
I loved Eli Manning. I've still got my Eli Manning Giants jersey. So
Nice,
there you go.
nice. He's a New York legend.
He's a legend in his own mind, if anything, if nothing else. And on that note, that's our time to close. Thanks to everyone that's come to listen or watch wherever you are doing so. Make sure you follow wherever you are, like wherever you are. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, please leave us a nice little review so that people know that this is a podcast worth listening to. And tune in later in the week for future streams, or come back next week for more 2-minute warning in our now weekly format leading up to the season.
Yeah.
I've been Jez. I've been joined by Matt and Duff Valley. Thanks for coming. Say goodbye, gents.
See you later, guys.
Goodbye, gents.